The media is freaking out about Trump's recent rally. Surprise, surprise, they are lying about it. You've even got some professing Christian leaders saying this is why Christians should not vote for President Trump. I've got a response to all of that today. We will also be highlighting some of the darkest themes that I have seen at Kamala Harris's recent rallies on today's episode of Relatable. It's brought to you by our friends at Good Ranchers. Go to goodranchers.com. Use code Allie at checkout. That's goodranchers.com, code Allie. Hey guys, welcome to Relatable. Happy Tuesday. Hope everyone is having a wonderful week so far. Oh my goodness, we are a week out from the election. Will the election actually be over on November 5th or even the morning of November 6th? I don't know, but I am telling you, that is one of my biggest prayers. One of my biggest prayers is that somehow, by some miracle, the votes are counted, there's no funny business, there's no confusion, and we just know who wins very quickly after the election, and that we are able to, in our disappointment or our happiness, accept the results of the election and move forward in what God has called us to do. Obviously, I want President Trump to win, and so I am also praying for that. And I've got to say, I'll just say this off the bat. We're going to talk a lot about campaign things today, and please tune in every single day this week on YouTube or wherever you listen. Make sure that all of your friends are too. All your friends who are typically disengaged from politics, this is the week to tell them to tune into Relatable, because we are going to be covering the two candidates from all angles. I will have my dad on per the request of many of you. We're going to talk about economics and foreign policy. We're going to be talking about immigration policy. We're going to be talking about abortion policy, all of these things that are so consequential. I just am so desperate for all of you to be equipped with as much knowledge and discernment as humanly possible. I am just playing my small part in reaching my particular audience, mostly of Christian women. We got a lot of Christian related bros out there, and I appreciate you guys. But like this demographic that Relatable is reaching, many of your friends, probably not you, but many of your friends are on the fence. Many of your friends are apathetic, or they're demoralized, or thinking voting third party, not voting at all. And I so desperately want to reach those people, and I'm reaching them through you related gals and related bros. So I'm going to give you as much as I possibly can. I think I just pulled a President Trump and started a sentence and then completely went a different direction. And I'm going to try to loop it back to the sentence that I originally started, or at least the thought that I originally started. I just got to say, in light of everything that's happened, or maybe it's despite a lot of the things that happened and that we're going to talk about today, the media's reaction to Donald Trump and his rallies, I do feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about Trump's odds right now. I can't tell you that necessarily the polling is showing that. It's really neck and neck in a lot of those swing states. And I would say that is pretty impressive considering how the media has hoisted up Democrats for decades, but certainly Kamala Harris in the past couple months, and everything they've tried to do to Donald Trump. I mean, they've tried to kill him at least twice. By the way, we don't even hear about those suspects anymore. What were their revealed motives, their affiliations? It's crazy that we don't hear more about that. How did they get around Secret Service to get so close to killing President Trump to the point that he was shot just a few months ago? Obviously, they've tried to lock him up in prison. They tried to impeach him multiple times when he was president. I mean, they do not want the guy to be back in the White House. So the fact that he is even close in the polling to Kamala Harris, I think bodes well for him. There are a lot of people who are embarrassed by their support for Donald Trump, or maybe they don't really love Donald Trump, but they're voting for him. And it's hard to find that in polling. Now, I'm not unrealistic, though. I very much know there is a good possibility that Kamala Harris wins. I'm not even talking about potential corruption. I'm talking about fair and square. I mean, as fair and square as you can get in a country that is whose institutions are dominated by one ideology, progressivism. It is certainly possible that she wins. And I am not a pie in the sky person. I have felt at various points in the past few months that there is absolutely no way that Trump is going to win. I was extremely demoralized after Kamala Harris stepped in that palace coup situation and said, yeah, I'm going to run and I'm going to take the place of Biden to compete against Donald Trump. I just thought the Trump campaign lost its footing completely, did not know how to attack her. After JD Vance was announced as the VP, they absorbed a lot of blows and didn't really know how to fight back. And so there have been moments over the past few months that I've been really worried and have basically thought there's no chance that Donald Trump can win. I don't feel like that anymore. I think they've gotten a lot better as a campaign. I think that JD Vance has shined as he goes on these adversarial news programs against these hostile reporters. I mean, I don't know really anyone who does it better than him. Maybe Ron DeSantis when it comes to those kinds of hostile interactions. And Trump, for his part, has been pretty disciplined. Maybe not 100% as much as some of us would like, but I would say he's been pretty disciplined. And I thought that the interview with Joe Rogan, we don't have time to get into all of it today, but I thought the interview with Joe Rogan benefited him more than not. He talks a lot. And as I alluded to just a couple minutes ago, he starts a sentence and then he starts a new sentence in the middle of that sentence. And then extremely impressively, masterfully, he will complete his original sentence 20 minutes later. Like it's amazing. And even though my interview with President Trump from a couple of years ago didn't get quite the reach that Joe Rogan's did, he has his same style with everyone, which you kind of have to appreciate. I watched maybe an hour and a half of the Joe Rogan interview. It wasn't really my cup of tea. It wasn't for me. Joe Rogan's audience is a bro audience. I would say 95% of them at least were already going to vote for Donald Trump. What I think it did for him was that amidst the Nazi accusations, the Hitler accusations that we've gotten from Kamala Harris, that we've apparently gotten from some of his previous staffers, it made all of those accusations look really silly. I know that this is going to sound crazy, but when you're watching Trump in a setting like this, where he's just talking like a person, he's very sweet. Like he's kind of a sweetie pie. Like, I know that people don't think that about him, but he's kind of sweet and he is definitely charming. I think we know that about him. And so I think that just in general, it probably accomplished that. I personally did not find the interview entertaining. Bree and I were just talking about this. How much of the interview did you watch?
I think I watched about 2 hours of it.
2 hours?
Yeah.
That's a lot. Did you watch it on one times? Or like
No.
2 times?
No, I was watching 2 times.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's just, I don't know. And I also felt like Joe Rogan was a little frustrated by Trump. Like, I think he really wanted him to answer the question.
Yeah.
Answer the question.
Yeah, I got that sense too.
But he was patient.
Yeah.
And Trump said, he was like, I like to weave. He likes to weave. It's true. Do you think it accomplished anything for him? Do you think it hurt him?
I saw a lot of people saying this is going to be the most influential interview of any candidate in history. I don't know. Maybe that's true. I mean, it's like at 36 million as of now that we're recording this.
Insane.
So maybe that's true. I didn't think like you. I didn't think it was particularly interesting. But it's not for me. So
yeah.
I'm not the target audience, and I don't watch Joe Rogan's podcast normally. So it's just kind of, maybe, but the audience that watches him is already voting for him, like you said. So
I know, Trump and Vance, they have the bro vote. I've said this so many times. Yeah. They have the dudes. Mm-hmm. And yet here we have JD Vance going on Tim Dillon's podcast.
Yes. And I just saw he's also going on Joe Rogan this week.
He is?
Yep.
Oh, well, I mean, I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I definitely would not turn down the opportunity to go on
No.
Joe Rogan's podcast if I were running
No.
for president, 100%.
Mhm.
And like, that's nothing against those bro podcasters. Tim Dillon is hilarious. Theo Vaughn, hilarious.
Yeah.
I actually thought the Theo Vaughn interview with Trump was really great. Maybe
Yeah.
that was probably his best because it was so humanizing, him talking about his brother Fred and alcoholism and all of that. I thought that was really sweet and I loved that. But like, are they allergic to female podcasts?
I know. It's kind of sad.
It is really sad. It doesn't have to be relatable, but
But it should be.
it should be, though. And people, I say this and then I'll get the random tweet that's like, he shouldn't have to pander to those people. I'm sorry, do we want to win? Do you want to win the election? Because we've got these millions of Christians who, according to George Barna, are not voting because they're disinterested. And then we've got the many women via toxic empathy, as we've talked about many times, who are Christians who are like, oh, Trump offends my friends, or Trump is mean to migrants, or whatever it is. And you can like yell at those people and chastise those people. I am working on those people so much. But if we could just do an interview with Trump where he talked about his love for country, his love for children, his love for families, his desire to make America as healthy and as safe and as prosperous as he possibly can for our kids and for our grandkids, I think that would do really well right now.
Yep. Agreed.
Because he just had this Madison Square Garden rally that was a bro fest. It was a bro fest, okay? That's fine maybe 3 months ago. But we're right before the election, and we need the rest of the female vote. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on that in just a second. Let me pause. Tell you about our first sponsor for the day. It's Adele Natural Cosmetics. Adele Natural Cosmetics is a family-run, holistic, handcrafted, toxin-free skincare and cosmetic company made in the U.S. Adele started because of Arlene's own health crisis. That's who owns Adele Natural Cosmetics. In 1999, she discovered that natural can actually be a very misleading word, and she figured out that the only way to get trusted products was to make them herself. And so that's what she did. All of her cosmetic products, all of her skincare products are completely and totally holistic. They are made completely from nature. And I use all of these products on my skin every day. I love their essential cleanser, their essential moisturizing spray, their essential serum. I also love their Blue Lagoon line, but honestly, my go-to is their essential line. It is so moisturizing for my dry skin. It's been a game changer for my skin's texture too. Go to AdeleNaturalCosmetics.com. Use code Allie for 25% off your first time purchase. AdeleNaturalCosmetics.com, code Allie. All right, so I kind of waited a little long to do my first ad, and so the rest of my ads might be a little close together. Just wanted to give you a warning about that. All right, so Trump had this big rally in Madison Square Garden in New York City. The pictures are amazing. I mean, the energy just looks off the charts. Obviously, it was filled to the brim, which is amazing. 20,000 supporters in Madison Square Garden. Just incredible. As the campaign momentum appeared to be shifting in Trump's favor after a very popular stint as a McDonald's worker and his Rogan interview, the mainstream media is now accusing Trump and his supporters of being Nazis and racist before and after the New York City rally took place. And so we'll get into those accusations in just a second, but let me complete my thought about it being a kind of a bro fest, because that's really my critique about it. And I heard Megyn Kelly say this, and I thought that is exactly right. That really the problem with it is that we're days before an election and we need to get as many votes as possible. You have to be strategic. Don't put all of your followers on defense right before they are trying to get people to go out and vote. Make it as easy as possible for people to vote for you. That's the thing. And as we will see, the comic that they chose and some of the things that he said, well, I personally wasn't offended by them. And I think like comedy can be offensive and it's fine. This probably wasn't the time. Do not make it difficult for people to vote for you. And that is my issue with it. And I'll get into the details of that in a second. But my issue with it was certainly not what MSNBC said is the issue with it, was the issue with this rally. And that is that it was like Hitler's Nazi rally. So Hillary Clinton kicked off the media narrative when she told CNN last Thursday, one other thing that you'll see next week is Trump actually reenacting the Madison Square Garden rally in 1939. She was referring to this infamous night at Madison Square Garden a few months before World War II broke out, when a group called the German American Bund held a rally supposedly to celebrate George Washington's 207th birthday, but was in fact an anti-Semitic celebration of Hitler's ascent to power and his undisguised hatred of Jews. I mean, they want to get this man killed. They want some vigilante to stand up and say, oh, this guy is Hitler. He is reenacting Nazi rallies. I'm going to take him out. I'm going to be a hero. That's what Hillary Clinton wants. So here is MSNBC trotting out this absolutely absurd and evil narrative. Here's shot one.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling. Because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally.
Okay, I think that like every artist has had a concert at Madison Square Garden. Were they also reenacting a Hitler rally? Okay, let me show you some things that were present at this so-called Nazi rally. Here's shot 5.
Why was it important for you to come here today?
So it's important for here to come here. The reason why we're here to show support for Donald Trump.
Trump,
baby! Trump 2024.
Trump,
because he stood up for the Jewish people. He stood up for Israel. He made sure Iran was broke. The economy was better. There was less crime. Anti-Semitism was down. All these things were down. Inflation was down. Gas was cheaper. And
food was cheaper.
Anti-Semitism. And all these things Donald J. Trump said and did.
So this was a group of Jewish young men saying why they are there to support President Trump. We've also got this full screen picture of the Israeli flag that was being kind of hung from the rafters there at Madison Square Garden. There were several Israeli flags. Now, here's a really good question for you. Where do you think Jewish people can more safely be openly Jewish with what they are wearing, especially Orthodox Jews, with what they are wearing? Where do you think that they can more safely wave the Israeli flag? At a Trump rally or a Kamala rally? I think you know the answer to that. Is an obviously outwardly Jewish person safer among Kamala Harris's radical supporters or Donald Trump's supporters? So, since we know the answer is Donald Trump, obviously, because there are a bunch of anti-Jewish haters on the left who many of them actually aren't voting for Kamala because she's not anti-Semitic, anti-Israel enough. But many of them are still voting for Kamala Harris. They hate the Jewish people. They hate the state of Israel. A Jewish person, especially one who openly supports the state of Israel and is flying an Israeli flag, would not be accepted, literally would not be safe in a crowd like that. So which is really the scary Nazi-like rally in this case? I mean, these outwardly Jewish people were excited to be there, were accepted while they were there, and yet we are told that this was like the 1939 pro-Hitler rally in New York City. Here is a group of young Jewish men singing the Israeli national anthem at the rally. Shot 6. Wow. I've never seen that at a Nazi rally. We have this picture of these two Jewish men who they are obviously wearing they're obviously wearing Jewish garb. They are praying at the rally there. There's a poll by a Jewish independent nonprofit that found that 65% of American Jews view Trump as supportive of Israelis, compared to 34% who say the same about Harris. Harris's Jewish support is significantly below what President Joe Biden got in 2020. 77%. Some exit polls say 68%. Hillary Clinton's Jewish support in 2016 was at about 70%. And so Harris is below that. Right now, she still does have a majority of Jewish voters. Most Jewish voters are still voting Democrat. Right now, it looks like it's about 62% of those who identify as Jewish are still supporting Harris because, again, they are traditionally Democrat. But in the same poll, it shows that many of these Jewish voters admit that Trump is far more supportive of Israel and that he is far less likely to support Palestine. So that's just interesting that he's got an unprecedented amount of Jewish support, and yet we are still hearing from the left that this was a Nazi rally. Well, it wasn't just that he had this rally at Madison Square Garden and they're drawing some kind of ridiculous parallel to what happened in 1939. They're also saying it is racist because of his promise to mass deport violent illegal aliens, and also a joke about Puerto Rico that was made by a comedian. So I'll get into that in just a second. Let me pause and tell you about our next sponsor. It's We Heart Nutrition. This is another amazing family-owned Christian fully pro-life company that you want to support. And it's not just that I feel good about partnering with them because we are on the same page and all of our values, but also because their products have really been a game changer for my health. I am so thankful for the prenatal, postnatal vitamins from We Heart Nutrition, the iron supplements, the magnesium supplements, the omega-3s. They've all really improved my blood work a lot in the past year. They've helped me stay healthy through multiple cold and flu seasons, and I'm just so grateful for that. And I know that you are going to love them too. They even have the 60-day Happy Heart Guarantee. If you try their supplements for 60 days and they're not working for you, you can get all of your money back, which is pretty amazing. Right now, with every first order placed of $50 or more, you receive their signature bamboo capsule box for free, which I have right here. I have it myself and I travel with it sometimes too. And also, if you use my code Allie, you get 20% off your order. That's weheartnutrition.com, code Allie. Okay, let's talk about this joke that people are absolutely freaking out about. So this comedian that they chose to speak at the rally, his name is Tony Hinchcliffe. I had never heard of him before, but he is an insult comic, and so he makes fun of people. He tells jokes about people and different groups in different places. I don't know. I'm not saying that I'm against this person in general, but I don't think that this was the right choice for a campaign rally a week before the election. I just don't. Again, make it as easy as possible for people to vote for you. Don't make it difficult for your supporters to defend you. Don't make it difficult for someone to vote for you who is sensitive. Again, you can get mad at the people who are sensitive. We can explain, and I will try to do that, explain why it's not as offensive as people think. We can say that, well, people should be able to get over it and vote based on policy, which obviously I believe, but we don't need to be making these kinds of unforced errors a week before the election. Again, make it easy. So, Tony, this comedian had this to say about Puerto Rico. Here's thought two.
A lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody.
Okay, so people were very upset about this. AOC, she said that this is unmitigated racism. A lot of people were calling this white supremacist. I even had people in my own DMs who are conservatives voting for Trump saying he is making fun of our people. It's a beautiful people. It's a beautiful country. We have been oppressed, and he called these people trash. Well, again, I don't think this was strategically very smart at this point, but he didn't call the people trash. He didn't. He didn't say that the people of Puerto Rico were trash. He is highlighting an actual problem with Puerto Rico thanks to the corruption and the dereliction of duty of their local governments there. There is a trash landfill crisis in Puerto Rico. One, just on an everyday basis, there is a huge littering problem. Not saying everyone in Puerto Rico litters, but this is unfortunately a very common practice among Puerto Ricans. There is a lot of littering that occurs, and the landfills that have been created to collect all of this trash are not properly managed. And because of that, the water supply in other parts of the ecosystem in Puerto Rico are really damaged, which is affecting people's health there, which is really sad. The Global Press Journal published a story in 2021 titled "Trash Crisis Leaves Puerto Rico Near the Brink." Going back to 2019, Puerto Rico's infrastructure report card from the American Society of Civil Engineers gave the territory a D- grade because less than half of the solid waste facilities were compliant with federal standards. 30 landfills were closed in the 1990s, but the proper post-closure procedures never took place. Insufficient operation, management, and inspection of both open and closed solid waste facilities has led to issues with compacting waste, toxic fumes, and disease vectors like mosquitoes, rats, and other pests, which is really, really unfortunate. That is not the fault of Donald Trump. That is not the fault of Republicans. That is the fault of the local governments there. And no, it's not because Puerto Rico has not received sufficient funding. On the contrary, Puerto Rico, like a lot of poor countries, has received a lot of monetary aid over the years, actually received a lot of monetary aid when President Trump was in office, and it has been mishandled. And so, unfortunately, the people of Puerto Rico are suffering. And so rather than getting angry that someone pointed this out in a satirical, joking way, let's get angry at the fact that the innocent people of Puerto Rico are really suffering because of the corruption and lack of responsibility of their own government. The article goes on to say while hurricane destruction has contributed to the mountains of garbage, even NPR reported that most of the island's landfills were filled beyond capacity and that nearly half were under orders to close prior to Hurricane Maria in 2017. Michael Schellenberger, he's an author and a journalist. He used to be an environmental activist, actually, for some Soros-related organizations until he really saw the light a few years ago. He's been on the podcast, and he posted this on X. He said, the media are claiming that a comedian at the Trump rally today made a racist joke about Puerto Ricans. He didn't. He was poking fun at the island's infamous trash problem. The media are acting ignorant about it, but they have covered it for years. All right, so that's what he was talking about. He wasn't talking about the people of Puerto Rico. Hopefully this actually highlights the problem to the point to where the Puerto Rican government is embarrassed by this and actually does something about it for the sake of its people, because people's health, especially vulnerable people, elderly people, children, they are really, really suffering because of this problem. And also, apparently, it is okay when certain groups are actually literally made fun of for some particular stereotypes, as long as it is someone who is at a Democrat rally and has the last name of Lopez. So here is George Lopez basically saying that Mexicans are thieves at Kamala Harris rally in Phoenix last Saturday. Stop 4.
Donald Trump said he was going to build a wall. And George Lopez said, you better build it in one day, because if you leave that material out there overnight.
Okay, so apparently that's fine. But if we say that Puerto Rico has a trash problem, That's not okay. So just beware of toxic empathy again, because they are using this joke to pull on your heartstrings, to make you think that in order to feel for the plight of Puerto Ricans, you must vote against Donald Trump. Remember, toxic empathy is different than actual empathy or a different kind of empathy. Toxic empathy is untethered from the truth, both factual truth and biblical truth. And so it blinds you to reality and morality. And they are going to be leveraging this as much as they possibly can before the election. They will stop at nothing to manipulate you. If you haven't gotten my book, Toxic Empathy, I encourage you to do so. I haven't even had a new podcast since it made the New York Times bestseller list, because we had pre-recorded the episodes for Thursday and yesterday. And so I'm so thankful. Toxic Empathy, New York Times bestseller. I am so grateful for that. I am very surprised that the New York Times put it on the list, because it's not only because of sales, it's actually some kind of subjective reasoning that they have and how they select the books to go on there. And I'm just so grateful for all of your support. But if you order it on Amazon, you can get it really quickly before the election. Read this book, have your friends read this book, especially those who are on the fence before the election, because we go through immigration, abortion, gender, sexuality, justice, and we show how the media uses this form of emotional manipulation to get you to believe erroneously that the progressive policy prescription is the right and compassionate one, when it is absolutely not. It's actually the harmful and destructive and hateful one. So go ahead and get Toxic Empathy. You can go on Amazon. We've got the description, or we've got the link in the description. You can also go to toxicempathy.com. At Mardel, I saw that it was at 40% off. So if you've got Mardel, the Christian bookstore, somewhere near you, I think it's still at a good discount. So go check that out. Pick one up for yourself and for your friends. All right, before I get into the other thing that people were so upset about with Donald Trump saying that he is going to mass deport violent criminals, let me tell you about our next sponsor, and it is Jace Medical. So Hurricane Milton made landfall a couple weeks ago near Siesta Key, Florida. It was a Category 3 storm, and at least 16 people died. 2 million people were without power. It was so devastating. I was so thankful to see how the church stepped up and cared for these people and filled the gap where our federal government simply didn't provide the help that was needed for so many citizens. And it's just a reminder that we need to make sure that we are really prepared for those kind of situations, especially when it comes to the medical supplies that we have. A really good thing to have as an emergency stash would be common antibiotics for the most common infections. That's what you can get from Jace Medical. They'll send you that emergency supply of antibiotics that you can keep on hand. You can add on things like ivermectin or an EpiPen or Tamiflu. You can also get a Jace Daily case. That's a year-long supply of the prescriptions that you and your family rely on. You will not be sorry that you have this in your back pocket. Go to jace.com, enter code Allie at checkout for a discount on your order. That's promo code Allie at jase.com. All right, so I got a message from someone saying this is just blatant racism. This is so awful. This is anti-immigrant, that Trump said that he was going to liberate America from the occupation of violent illegal aliens. Here's Sat 3.
On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history. I'm going to get the criminals out. I will rescue every city and town that has been invaded and conquered, and we will put these vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail. We're going to kick them the hell out of our country as fast as possible.
So I would want to know, please tell me if you're out there, why would you or anyone be against the deportation of violent criminals? Now, I believe in deporting illegal immigrants. It is unfair. It is unjust. There are thousands of people, responsible people from around the world, who are waiting in line lawfully to become citizens of a country that they would love and honor and work hard for and sacrifice for. And instead, you've got illegal aliens who have cut in line, who have skirted the law, who already disrespect the country so much that they aren't even willing to come here legally and abide by the law in how they are arriving here. We also have true refugees and true asylum seekers that have a really hard time getting here in a legal way because of all of the confusion and the chaos and the bottlenecks that are caused by illegal immigration. So I think all illegal immigrants should be deported, and I think our border should be extremely secure so that no one can come through illegally. That's not a crazy belief. That's not a radical belief. I believe that every country on earth has both that right and that responsibility because countries are like families. And you don't have walls and doors and locks in your house because you hate your neighbors or because you hate people outside of your family, but because you love your family. And if you allowed strangers to come into your home unvetted, and sleep in your children's bed and eat your kids' food, that would not make you a compassionate person. That would make you a cruel parent. Countries are like families. Countries were God's idea. Governments were instituted by God. Romans 13. Laws were God's idea. We see that in the establishment of ancient Israel. All of these things, borders, parameters, even walls we see throughout Scripture are for our good. They are for human security and human flourishing. God is a God of order. Borders mean order, and order is good. Borderlessness is lawlessness. We see throughout Scripture that lawlessness is a curse. Lawlessness is bad. The man of lawlessness is not a hero in Scripture, but a villain. And so to be against strict immigration policy and the enforcement of our borders is to be for anarchy, and anarchy is good for no one. Anarchy is not good for your neighbor. You can either love your neighbor or you can support the unmitigated illegal infiltration of aliens. But you cannot do both. So when Trump says he is going to deport, he's not even talking in this sentence about all illegal aliens. He's talking specifically about the violent criminals. I don't understand how that doesn't have 100% support. So here's CNN reporting this. And MSNBC reporting this just a few months ago. Here's CNN. This is the dangerous Venezuelan gang infiltrating the U.S. that you probably know nothing about, but should. Here's NBC. Ghost criminals, how Venezuelan gang members are slipping into the U.S. Well, I don't even know if you could say slipping when the border is open, because under the Harris-Biden administration, the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, has done absolutely everything they possibly can to undermine any efforts by border states to protect their borders, taking away buoys, taking away barbed wire, getting angry if a Border Patrol agent on a horse grabs the shirt of an illegal Haitian alien. All of that is racist. All of that is wrong. They are currently suing several states who are trying to purge their voter rolls of non-citizens, including the Commonwealth of Virginia. That is currently happening by this evil, wicked administration who hates this country. That's not hyperbole. If you are trying to undermine the special rights and privileges of your own citizens in favor of the rights and the privileges, actually not even just the right, because a non-citizen shouldn't have a right to vote, but the privileges, the desires, the wishes, the well-being of non-citizens, yes, you are an evil administration. What Trump is referring to here is specifically a gang called Tren De Aragua. They are a gang that has taken over several apartment complexes throughout the country, like Aurora, Colorado. And I don't know if you remember the interview that J.D. Vance did just a few weeks ago, where he was going back and forth with the host, Martha, about this. And she basically accused him of spreading a racist conspiracy theory. But here's how she refuted him. She said there was only a handful of apartment complexes that were taken over by this illegal gang. And J.D. Vance literally said, Martha, listen to yourself. Do you hear yourself? Like, there should be zero. There should be zero. Here's the New York Post. Since crossing the border, posing as asylum seekers in recent years, Tren De Aragua members have created footholds across the country, setting up criminal operations in NYC, Colorado, and Chicago, and have been linked to a rise in sex trafficking in 8 U.S. states: Texas, New York, New Jersey, Nevada, Illinois, Georgia, Florida, in California. Like, that should be enough. If you are a sane person, if you are a compassionate person, if you really love your country and love your neighbor, that should be enough to vote for Donald Trump and not for Harris. If you love children, if you love the most vulnerable, if you are against sex trafficking, if you are against lawlessness, if you are against violence, you should not be voting for Kamala Harris, who has been a border czar for the past 3.5+ years and has only made this crisis worse because they incentivize and enable and exacerbate the illegal immigration crisis at the expense predominantly of children. If you are really worried about family separation at the border, you should be against illegal immigration. If there were no illegal immigration, there would be no family separation. You know, there's been a ton of family separation under the Harris-Biden administration, right? You know that there's been stories of these toddlers, of these babies just left by the traffickers, by the coyotes in the middle of the desert, only saved by our American Border Patrol. You understand that that happens, right? And yet I didn't get a photo op by AOC dressed in all white, standing at the border crying over that family separation. Evangelicals for Harris, evangelicals for Biden. Where are you at, Christianity Today and Russell Moore? Those of you who say that you're voting for Harris because of democracy and compassion, I haven't heard you say a word about the illegal immigration crisis and the humanitarian crisis that illegal immigration has caused over the past few years. So much worse than we've ever seen before, because borderlessness is lawlessness, and Satan loves lawlessness, and he will use it to make a country and to make people vulnerable to evil. So this issue alone should be enough for you to vote for Donald Trump. The fact that we have a gang who is here illegally from Venezuela, taking over apartment complexes in the United States, that should freak any of us out. And if you love your kids and you love your neighbors, you will vote against that. I would vote for Trump on his promise of mass deporting these people alone. That is sufficient for me. That is enough, because I love my country and I love my daughters and I love my neighbors. Do you? I don't want to hear about this being racist or white supremacist. Your brain is mush if you believe that, and your heart is stone if you believe this. This is literally an existential crisis. You know, there was a woman in Dallas, and she went to college with one of my friends. So I heard the story before it came into the news, and I asked if I could share the story, and I posted about it, and it went semi-viral on X, and a bunch of people told me I was lying, that I was making it up because it wasn't reported by the news yet. And it was a story of a woman who came home from dinner one night. She lives in this very swanky part of Dallas, close to Highland Park, if you're familiar with that area. And she got home, she opened up her garage, and when she went in, she was greeted by 4 men who she said did not speak English, who pinned her down, pistol whipped her, thank God, did not rape her, did not kill her, while they stole her jewelry. They were able to steal a bunch of items from her house, and she was able to, they told her to go into the bathroom. They said, you know, come out in 10 minutes. I guess she somehow understood oh, no, I remember what it was. I was about to say she understood what they said. No, they were using Google Translate on their phone. And so she stayed in the bathroom, but she was able to escape, and she set off the alarm in her apartment, and they fled. They were eventually caught, and they are affiliated with this gang, Tren De Aragua, from Venezuela. And I posted about this. All these people said I was lying. Well, now it is completely verified, because it has been reported by the New York Post and other mainstream outlets. You can go look up this story for yourself. It's 100% true. In a rich, swanky part of Dallas, this young woman was nearly killed by illegal Venezuelan migrants. Do you care about her? Do you care about Laken Riley? Do you care about Molly Tibbetts? Do you care about Kate Steinle? Or do you want more of those stories to happen? It's just really obvious to me. So, like, I'm just completely undeterred, completely unmoved by the empathy mongers who say that I have to be against the deportation of violent illegal aliens. I'm sorry. I am called to something much deeper than superficial toxic empathy. I'm called to the truth in love, and the truth in love, which is established and defined and created and sourced in God Himself, tells me that God is a God of order, that He loves nations, that borders are a mercy for a nation. And because I want to seek the welfare of the city that He has placed me in while I am in exile in this life, like Jeremiah 29 says to the people of Israel, I want strong borders. And so I'm voting for President Trump. All right. I just want to contrast a little bit to what's going on the Kamala Harris side of things, but I don't have time to get into everything that I wanted to when it comes to Kamala Harris and just her doubling down on her avid support of abortion that is seen in her rallies. But I'll go through that just a little bit in a second. Let me go to the last sponsor of the day, and that is Carly Jean Los Angeles. Y'all know how much I love CJLA. Even when I am not reading an ad for CJLA, or I don't know that I'm reading for an ad for CJLA, I am always wearing at least one item from Carly Jean Los Angeles because it's what constitutes most of my closet, because I love their clothes so much. Right now, this tank top that I'm wearing underneath my long sleeve shirt is CJLA. They've got something for every occasion, for every day, for every season of the year, for every stage of life. And this is another pro-life, pro-America, Christian family-owned company that you can feel really good about supporting. I absolutely love their clothes. All of their jeans especially are so flattering. I really don't like to wear any other kinds of jeans because of how awesome CJLA is. If you go to carlyjeanlosangeles.com and use code AllieB, you get 20% off your order. That's carlyjeanlosangeles.com, code AllieB. So Kamala Harris had a Texas rally, which is pretty amazing. They obviously see Texas as vulnerable to flipping blue. And honestly, I think that the Trump campaign does too, because I can just see by the presence of the campaigns in Texas, the competing ads that I see on X that is supposed to be targeted towards Texas. I think that they really see this as a battleground. Obviously, that would be absolutely devastating for Republicans if Texas were to go blue, because that is Republicans' competition to California, of course. And that is also part of why the federal government under the Harris-Biden administration wants illegal aliens infiltrating Texas and a bunch of swing states. That is why. That is the purpose. It is to shift the balance of power so drastically towards Democrats that Republicans can't really win anymore. Now, I don't really think that their pie in the sky idea of this multicultural coalition all supporting Democrats is shaping up how they thought it would, especially since Trump is actually receiving record Latino vote right now, support right now. But I think that they understand that they can manipulate the masses. They know that they can import a mass amount of people and then manipulate them into supporting their party. And I think that that shift is extremely clear. People will call that some kind of replacement conspiracy theory. They're open about it. You'd have to be stupid not to see it. We know exactly where illegal aliens are being flown to in the United States. It's mostly swing states. And that is well documented, and I really appreciate how Elon Musk has shown a light on that over the past few weeks especially. So anyway, Kamala Harris is in Texas, and she had Beyonce go up there. And Beyonce, wow, she said something so unique, so different than any other celebrity has said for why they're voting for Kamala Harris. I've never heard this kind of just profound and moral and compassionate take on why people just have to vote for Kamala Harris. Here's Sadiq.
I'm not here as a celebrity. I'm not here as a politician. I'm here as a mother. A mother who cares deeply about the world my children and all of our children live in. A world where we have the freedom to control our bodies.
Okay, so in one breath, she is saying we need a country that is great for our children and grandchildren. We want our children to be able to live in a good country. The next breath, she is saying that we should have the right to kill children. And I just want to point out again that use of euphemisms, controlling your own body. Y'all are talking about a body. We're talking about a baby. We're at an impasse, but we're right and you're wrong. Because it's not just a woman's body. We are talking about human life that is true scientifically. Your side, the pro-choice side, believes that that human life doesn't have the same value as someone outside of the womb, and yet they cannot tell you logically why. Location, size, age. Do you apply those qualifications for anyone outside of the womb to justify their murder? Of course not. Tell me why killing some innocent human beings is okay to you. Why should killing some innocent human beings be legal? And again, I'll say, if being pro-choice were the right side, then they wouldn't have to constantly lie to convince you. They wouldn't have to say something like a right to your own body or bodily autonomy or reproductive freedom or reproductive health or women's rights or terminating a pregnancy or clump of cells or the contents of pregnancy. They wouldn't have to say any of those things. Those are all euphemisms for killing. Those are all euphemisms for what happens in an abortion, which is poisoning and or dismembering with forceps. And the second trimester, it is injecting a baby's beating heart with the same chemical combination that's used in lethal injections for murderers on death row. That baby kicks and squirms and flinches at the pain of that needle until finally the poison enters the bloodstream and that baby enters into cardiac arrest and dies. That's what happens in a second trimester abortion. That's what they're cheering for. If Planned Parenthood really thought abortion was that great, or if they really thought that they could convince you that abortion was great, if we really should be shouting our abortion, celebrating abortion, it would be Planned Parenthood and Kamala Harris showing you the pictures of an aborted baby. It would be them coming out and saying, this is what happens in an abortion. They'd be using real terminology. They would be saying, yay, dismembering babies. Yay, killing children. Yay, ending innocent lives. But they don't use those words. They use euphemisms. They use a mask. They use a facade because the law of God is written on the human heart. And even they know that abortion is barbaric. So they have to lie to you. You understand that, right? They are lying to you. They're not using real, exact, specific language. They are obscuring reality to manipulate you. And what do pro-lifers do? What's our grand strategy to try to convince people? It's tell people the truth. Like, the truth is fully on our side. It is so easy to be pro-life. All you have to do is tell someone what happens in an abortion. All you have to do is say, this is what an abortion is. This is what an abortion does. Let's talk very realistically and graphically what an abortion is, and then you tell me why you think it should be legal. And so be on the side of truth. I wish President Trump were more on the side of life, more on the side of truth. But at the end of the day, it's the Harris-Biden administration that is currently imprisoning peaceful pro-lifers, and Trump who will likely pardon them. Look, Romans 13 says that the government was instituted by God to reward good and punish evil. The Harris-Biden administration does the exact opposite. They reward abortionists and they punish those who protest against abortionists. So I not only could never vote for that, but I see it as my responsibility to vote against that. She told people at the Texas rally that Texas is ground zero, that we have to fight for reproductive freedom. There's going to be a Trump abortion ban. Well, remember also, it's Kamala who has promised that she is going to do something at the federal level about abortion. Trump has said he's not going to do anything at the federal level about abortion, which of course is not where I am, but that's where he is. He's saying it's left up to the states. So Texas, if you want to restrict abortion, you can. Colorado, if you want abortion through all 9 months, you can. Again, I don't like that position. I don't think it's pro-life enough. We're talking about a human right here. But Kamala Harris has promised to do something at the federal level, and she said she's going to federalize Roe. Now, what does federalizing Roe mean? You might think, oh, well, it makes abortion legal through 24 weeks gestation. If you are even just like a little bit educated about it, you might think that, although most on the pro-choice side wouldn't even be able to articulate that. But it's not that. It's not what Roe said. And if you read it in conjunction with Doe v. Bolton and Casey v. Planned Parenthood, what you'll find is that it allows abortion through all 9 months. And after viability, there has to basically be a doctor sign off saying, yeah, this is for the woman's health. But health is not physical health. Health can also mean mental health. Health can also mean emotional health. Health can also mean family situation. And so it's virtually for any reason through all 9 months. And federalizing that standard would mean that no state can have any restriction on abortion. And this has been her stance, by the way, since she was just a lowly politician from California. She believes that no state should be able to restrict abortion. It should be an abortion free for all. We should just allow the unfettered slaughter and sacrifice of babies. She is the most bloodthirsty pro-abortion politician. That's why she voted no against the Born Alive Infant Survivors Protection Act in 2019 as the furthest left senator that existed there. That's why she went after David DeLayden when she was Attorney General of California, because he uncovered an alleged pay-for-play scheme with Planned Parenthood paying for fetal tissue, aborted fetal tissue, or selling it rather, getting money for it. That's why she forced pregnancy centers through the FACT Act to prominently advertise for abortion. That was overturned by the Supreme Court because it's a clear violation of the First Amendment. So when people say they're voting for Kamala Harris for compassion for women, for democracy, what are you talking about? She has never given one flying rip about your constitutional rights, and she has made that abundantly clear since she was Attorney General of San Francisco. Okay? Be smarter than that. Please, just say you don't like Trump. Don't say it's for democracy. Don't say it's for our Constitution that you're voting for Kamala Harris. She doesn't give one rip about our Constitution. And she has demonstrated that over and over again. She has shown you exactly who she is. People say that they're voting for Kamala Harris for a woman's right. You cannot say that you are for women and girls when you are fighting to kill them in the womb and violate them in the locker room. No, thank you. No, thank you. I just want to play one thing before we head out, and I want to respond to it really quickly because, look, white Christian woman, Kamala Harris and her campaign, they want you, and they're using toxic empathy to manipulate you, and they're even telling you to divide with your husband. They're even trying to cause a rift in your marriage so that you will vote for her. Here's Thought 12.
Your turn, honey.
In the one place in America where women still have a right to choose, you can vote any way you want. And no one will ever know.
Did you make the right choice?
Sure did, honey.
Remember, what happens in the booth stays in the booth. Vote Harris Walls. Vote Common Good is responsible for the contents of this ad.
That is so disgusting. First of all, again, they don't understand. They don't understand us. Like, there is in no world that my husband wouldn't know exactly what I'm thinking about the election, exactly who I'm voting for. Like, if you can deceive your husband in this way, you have way deeper marriage problems, okay? You needed to see a counselor yesterday. There's no shame in that. But if you can lie to your husband about something so consequential, you've got a lot of deep problems there. And I just don't think that Julia Roberts or Kamala Harris, that they are experts on marriage. They're certainly not experts on morality. They are encouraging women to be deceptive. Here's the truth, and here's what Democrats absolutely hate. I know a lot of women that would vote Democrat if it weren't for the good sense of their husbands. That they're big feelers, and they would be bleeding hearts. They would imbibe all of the media narratives. But their husbands in love say, I know that that's how you feel and that's a legitimate feeling, but look at these facts over here. And I don't know any of those women who would say, no, I know better than you and I'm actually voting Democrat. I'm sure that those people exist, but like I know people that for a fact would vote Democrat if it weren't for the good sense and guidance of their husbands. And of course, I think that's a really good thing. Don't be manipulated by this, woman. Don't be manipulated by this. This is so satanic and demonic. Do not vote for the destruction of our country, the destruction of babies inside the womb, unmitigated. Politics matter because policy matters because people matter. Politics affects policy. Policy affects people. People matter to God. They matter to us. Illegal immigration and abortion and gender ideology and Title IX changes and incentivizing, exacerbating, enabling soft on crime policies, criminality, lawlessness, all of those things negatively impact your neighbor. All right, that's all we got time for today. I'll see you guys back here tomorrow.